What is going on, Alpha Hunters? The markets are closed for the week of September 27th, and we didn't really get too much in the way of huge, crazy data, economic, or even earnings. There was a couple of different earnings companies from earnings, I guess, that happened this week, but it wasn't not a lot, right? Not a lot. So just not a real busy week, and that's kind of typically the way it is at the end of quarters. It's a really good time to kind of do homework, kind of see like, hey, how's the portfolio still running? Are you overbalanced? Do you need to rebalance? That kind of stuff. Anyways, start the week. We had a little bit of a gap down, not crazy. We have a nice little run back in to start the day on Monday. A little bit of a pullback midday, slow, kind of choppy grind back higher a little bit. Nice little gap up there Tuesday. Sold off, broke Monday's low, and that was basically it. That was the low point of the week. Nice run in the middle part of the day and just kind of sideways there to kind of end out the day. Wednesday basically a flat open and kind of just rolled over very steadily, kind of in the early middle afternoon, and then just tried to bounce and just kind of rolled over a little bit, not really doing too much there. The big move in the week was Thursday morning gap up. There you go. So looking pretty good there Thursday morning, but that was it. Just kind of faded from there, and it was really kind of an interesting one. Really kind of more on the Qs. Got to gap to a really good spot. Qs got hit pretty good on the start there on Thursday. Nice little midday bounce, but it still just kind of rolled over there into the early afternoon, then bounced from there, and then just kind of sideways there to finish out Thursday. Nice little gap up there on Friday. Kind of a quick little pullback, pushed higher first hour, and then just kind of rolled over and faded there for the rest of the day. Never really took out that Thursday high. Wasn't really that close, but it is what it is. Coming into the week, kind of was expecting some early week, not to say bearishness, just kind of weakness, and then some strength as we went on further in the week. Mostly because, well, we had a pretty strong rally kind of last week, so kind of expected a little bit of a rest, and that's basically what we got. All right, taking a look at sector rotation. I really like looking at sector rotation on the weeks at the end of the quarter when there's not much kind of going on. There's not much big time news that's really moving the markets around a whole lot. What are the capital flows that you are seeing? And it was really interesting because we got some pretty good capital flow discrepancies across many different sectors, right? Energy's lower end of the week, along with healthcare, financials, and real estate. Staples also underperformed a little bit there. Utilities kind of in line with the market. Outperformers were tech, industrials, and communications, with discretionaries and materials at the higher end of the week's performance. Looking pretty good. Even materials are doing pretty good, even kind of early on in the week back on Tuesday. So there you go. All right, as far as the VIX, just kind of continue to slow, pullback. It's kind of the way it is. For unless we're dropping off, and VIX can very much slowly just drop here. So what was kind of interesting was the sharp rise that we got there Friday. See if that carries into next week. But the interesting thing on the week was this low on Thursday. We did not get back below that low from late August. So kind of an interesting one. DXY dollar index tried its best to break through this level. Honestly, I think it probably will because we have multiple days. Like Tuesday, we had a full body close lower, and we bounced back there on Wednesday, but we came right back Thursday, Friday, broke the low, made even nice little wick below all the previous lows. So I think we'll probably see the dollar, the DXY, probably wind up breaking down. And if you do have any interest to play it, you're probably just looking for a move down to this like 99.8 to 99.6 level, somewhere down there. Not a huge move there on the DXY, but I would just be looking for that price level in particular there on the DXY. GLD Gold Trust. Gold's been running pretty good here over the past couple of weeks and kind of just kept higher, pushing higher, especially there on Tuesday. Not really doing too much there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but yeah, I would just rather be bullish on pullbacks. So just look for them, keep buying them. 10-year yields, nice little pullback there on Friday. This thing's trying to slowly get through basically this kind of support and resistance zone. We basically tried to bounce there kind of like that mid-late August spot. This is kind of where we're been having some issues recently, especially this past week. We basically just hit right in that level about every day. So obviously, there's something going on there with that, with roughly that 3.8 level. So if we can get through there, solidly get through there, then maybe we start to push back higher in yields. But as for now, I would just be hands off until the market can kind of figure out what it wants to do with that level. Take a look at the 10-2 inversion. Had a nice little drop there on Thursday, bounced back a little bit there on Friday, but it ran higher, basically continuing from where it left off last week, the end of last week. So yeah, 10-2 inversion looking pretty good. And I just want to keep an eye on a 10 and 1 because this yield curve is still inverted, although it has, well, very much so throughout the month of September, been moving towards that zero line pretty aggressively. We'll see if it gets there. I don't know, maybe here in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, if it keeps moving at that kind of pace that we've had recently, it'll get there pretty quick. HYG, high yield corporate bonds, looking pretty solid. Looking pretty solid. You got that consolidation, that pullback, basically throughout the entire week. And then we tried to start bouncing up out of there Thursday. Kind of like this on Thursday because we had that gap up. And then we came all the way back down to the weekly lows. And then we kind of just bounced from there and it continued Friday. Looks really good. I like how we got above the previous high from last Thursday. Looking pretty solid there. LQD, not looking as solid, but you got to like this extended pullback. Kind of got a nice little basing on that 20 EMA as it's been coming higher. I'd say it's maybe okay. I mean, you got a pretty defined spot here for a stop loss. So yeah, I mean, we might continue higher on some of these bonds. What about the TLT? So this is going to be the area where kind of talked about before because the TLT had a much more extended pullback. And one of the things that you might be able to do and consider is maybe look to go bearish on the TLT and bullish on maybe the HYG, right? The HYG, there's been more strength in lately, and the TLT recently has not had the strength. So what are we going to do? Obviously, we see we clearly got this bounce off the 50 EMA. Do we come up to this level and maybe roll over? That's quite possible. I would keep an eye on the TLT. You maybe take bearish spots there with the moving averages, maybe here on this zone, and maybe here on this gap fill, possibly. So there's 3 entry spots. Obviously, you clearly have stop loss way back up here. You're probably doing your risk reward calculation, probably based on this level, the lower level here, where the moving averages would be. If you're going to kind of like layer getting into this. And the big reason why I kind of say that is, well, if the bonds do roll over, we see yields go higher, you'll probably see the TLT drop at a faster pace than the HYG, right? And that would be the thing is, I would probably just be leaning bullish on the HYG and bearish on the TLT. And then, you'll probably be looking to win on one, lose on the other. But if you get that clear move, they'll probably both move in the same direction. One will just outpace the other in that direction, right? So you'd be hoping for the TLT to move bearish at a faster pace than the HYG would, and vice versa. Right? You'll be looking for the HYG to move higher at a faster pace than the TLT. So that's what you could probably look to do, and I don't think it'd be a bad way to go about it because the TLT did get ripped here over the past 2 weeks. All right, the IYT Transportation ETF. I just wanted to bring this one up mostly because we talked about it last week with how much it got hit last Friday from FedEx's earnings. So I just kind of more wanted to bring this up like, hey, this thing bounced back kind of strong. Not a bad spot to try to go bearish at these levels. Got some pretty important wicks kind of coming in. The other thing I would say is if it continues just to consolidate up here, it eventually probably will get pushed up through the whatever resistance zone this is by the moving averages. So not a bad spot to be looking to maybe be bearish, but it's also one if it continues just to chop sideways and it's not just breaking down anytime soon, you can probably just take it off and let it figure out what it's going to do. RSP, look at that huge upper wick. Man, that thing is huge. Pretty impressive, actually. It did actually get up to about 180. The top of Friday was 179.94. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty impressive tall wick there. Be curious to see if what we wind up doing here as we go into next week. I still think we might push just a couple days, just higher into October. Sometime later, maybe second half of this next week or something like that. That's what I kind of think might happen. That way you get a much larger kind of switch between the RSP, SPY, and Qs. DIA, you can also see that huge upper wick there as well. So yeah, we had some pretty good reversals there on Friday. Started out the day kind of strong, but man, we faded basically 3/4 of the day. Nice little doji action on the IWM. Tried to continue higher from some gap ups there on Thursday and Friday, but people continue to sell. Look how many red days we got in a row on the IWM. So yeah, we saw pretty good selling going all the way back to last week there on the IWM. And the Qs, yeah, so we're still not back up to those all-time highs on the Qs. And the interesting thing, like I mentioned earlier, was where we gapped to on Thursday. That Thursday gap up was basically right at the lower ends of this wick that we had back on July 16th. So you can basically say we filled that gap because that low on that day was 493.15 and the high on Thursday was 493.70. So definitely overlapped a little bit there, definitely filled that gap. So where do we kind of go from here? I'm not going to be surprised if we kind of just grind higher this next week. It's going to be a pretty dead week again. Not a whole lot kind of going on. The second week of October, that's when we start to get into the earnings season kind of prep. So I wouldn't be surprised if we push a little bit higher. I'd be curious to see if the Qs even take out the high from this week back from Thursday. But the SPY and RSP, I wouldn't be surprised if they do take out the highs from this week. So that's kind of what I'd be looking for. I don't know. It'll be interesting. We saw some pretty good selling on the Qs right on the open from on Thursday. Even Friday saw some pretty good selling on tech in the tech area. So SPY continued to push a little bit higher and even made some all-time highs there Thursday and a little bit Friday. Anyways, it's pretty much going to be a dead week this next week, kind of like how it was this past week. I wouldn't expect a whole lot. People might continue to sell and take the opportunity to close out of positions or rebalance and, do all kinds of things. I definitely would expect that on Monday. It's the quarter end. A lot of rebalancing kind of happens on quarter end. So I wouldn't be surprised if that stuff kind of happens. Anyways, Alpha Hunters, have a great weekend and we'll see what we get next week. Alrighty. Take care, Alpha Hunters.